another Ants on a Rock video. Welcome to the Ant Corner. So I wanted to release a little video on how to treat a mould outbreak within your ant enclosures. For anyone that follows my channel, they will know that one of my colonies has been suffering with a mould problem for quite a while now. The imposters, one of my latest Niger colonies. I don't know why, but they keep dragging the food off the tinfoil and onto the sand, and residue from that is causing mould, continuous mould, that I've tried to treat several times now. To treat mould within an ant enclosure, you've got a couple of different choices. First and simply, you can remove the affected sand. If you bake it in the oven at 200 degrees for half an hour, then it will be clear of mould and bacteria and safe to reuse. I like to then quarantine it for a couple of weeks just to make sure that it doesn't outbreak with mould again. Another option is to remove all the sand together, much like the first step, but not to put any sand back in the outworld, keeping the outworld clear and just see-through plastic. The plastic is much easier to clean than any substrate. Just wipe it down with a wet cotton bud and it's pretty much done. The third and more long-term solution that I'm going to tell you about is the one I much prefer, and it's the bioactive scenario. Springtails are a great way of controlling mould outbreaks within your enclosure. They basically eat the mould. Now I culture my own springtails, and I have done for quite a while. I have a separate culture of just springtails and a culture of springtails and isopods. Isopods help break down the exoskeletons of the foods that I provide for my ants, and the springtails prevent the mould from occurring whilst this process takes place, eventually helping to the full breakdown of any food remains. With regular cleanups and maintenance like you do in an ant enclosure, this should keep on top of any mould outbreaks and harmful bacteria. Culturing springtails is really easy. Just get your first culture online, split it in half and keep half to one side. I put mine in an old outworld enclosure. I feed them the same as I feed my isopods. Chopped up heads of mealworms and other bits and bobs like that. They also do really good on fish flakes. They're on a standard soil substrate with bits of leaf litter and bark to hide under. This is all they need and they are thriving. Now back to the imposters. These annoying little ants have been quite an issue for me and the springtails. Having added springtails to their enclosure twice now, all they do is chase them down and eat them. Now, ants normally live quite a harmonious life with springtails. I've never actually witnessed them chasing them down and eating an entire culture before, but the imposters seem to love them. So what I've done with this colony for now is I've taken the test tube with the queen and the colony out and put them back into their old outworld that I still had on standby. I've proceeded to pull back the sand at the back of the enclosure and fill it with some of the soil from my springtail culture. I've pushed the sand back on top and I've just let them do their thing. It's been 2 days so far and I can already see a difference. They're getting the mould under control around the nest entrance, which is a massive, important part. As you can see, it's still a little bit black and not looking great, but it's definitely getting under control. Hopefully they'll also establish themselves nicely to a point where when I put the ants back in, they won't just eat them all. To aid this, I might add in a slight corner of soil with some moss on top. This acts as a great habitat for the springtails and possibly some isopods to move in, aiding in keeping the enclosure clean and free from mould in the future. I hope you found this video full of information and a little bit helpful. As always, see you again, Ant fans.